This is the Pilot Custom 743 with an FA nib. Let's take a look at it. This is one of the nicest, most effective modern flex pens you can buy. It has a tremendous amount of flex. Perhaps not as great as vintage flex, but again, how much flex do you really need when you're drawing every day? The flow is absolutely excellent. It's very, very, very smooth. You can work with it really, really quickly. It has a little bit of reverse writing to it, though you can write really finely with this pen, which makes reverse writing perhaps a little bit redundant. The balance is excellent. It's a long pen, which perhaps is a little bit heavy towards the back when posted, but it's long enough to be used unposted. Most importantly, it has the advantage of being able to use the long Pilot Con 70 converter. So this is a pen with lots of ink capacity. If I was going to recommend one modern flex pen, it would be this one, the Pilot Custom 743 with an FA nib. You can usually find these on eBay directly from Japan. Alright, so let's see how this pen draws in practice. Okay, let's see how this pen works, but before I get started, I'm going to do an underdrawing with a little bit of graphite. I could have done the underdrawing with the pen itself, but it puts down, I would say, a fine line that maybe is a little bit too heavy for this type of really light underdrawing. I could have probably done this underdrawing with the reverse writing. I don't know, I just chose not to. I'm just more comfortable doing the underdrawing in this case. It should be said that the price this pen puts it into a little bit of the splurge category. I believe I paid about $230 to buy this pen directly from Japan. It's not available in the US. The equivalent is the Pilot Custom 823, which is a vacuum filler, but you can't buy it with this flexible FA nib in the US. It's something, again, you have to order from the Tokyo Pen Shop, which you can find online. I don't know, look, if you told me, I don't know, 5-6 years ago when I first started this hobby, obsession, addiction, that I'd pay over $200 for a pen, I would think you were crazy. But look, this hobby kind of sneaks up on you little by little. You start off with cheap pens, and then you start getting curious about the quality of the next pen up, and all of a sudden you find yourself spending a lot of money. I have to say, though, that at around $200, $230, this is probably the upper limit for what I'd pay for a pen, because I think anything above maybe $250, you start paying more for what's called the furniture. Basically, the gold trimming, the, I don't know, the brass interior, the inset diamonds, whatever it is, more than you're paying for the writing quality. So really, this is about as good a pen as you can get. Really, I don't know. I have a Mont Blanc that was given to me as a gift. It doesn't write better than this, and it's not flexible. There's really nothing particularly wonderful about this Mont Blanc, even though it costs $800. So I really wouldn't pay any more than $200 for a pen. Now, there are vintage pens, and I have a few in this price range as well, that are definitely worth it. But for a modern pen, this would be just about the upper limit of what I would pay. And look, I think it's worth it. I might buy a pen like this once a year as a gift to myself after the end of a semester. It writes really well. It works really well. I really think this is the best modern flex pen on the market. As good as any of the vintage flex that I have tried, and way more reliable. So the problem with vintage pens is, even though they're wonderful, just about all of them have problems with leaking. They burp. It's not something you just want to throw into your bag. Not that I'd be throwing this one in the bag either, but it's just much more sturdy. And the fact that I don't really have to worry about it, like I keep it in a case. But otherwise, it's not something that I really have to baby. So it is expensive, but I still use it as a studio tool. I'm going to be using it on some upcoming projects. That's really the main advantage of this pen over vintage. Sometimes especially if the pen is really old, like a Waterman 54 from the 20s. It's a pen that you might want to take out once in a while, but not something you want to use on a regular basis, just because it's pretty much irreplaceable. Um, okay, so let's talk about the writing, the drawing properties of this pen. There have been a lot of complaints online over this pen railroading or having hard starts. I have not had any problems with this pen at all. In fact, in anticipation of running into problems, I ordered a Ebonite Feed from the Flex Nib factory that supposedly gave you a little more ink flow. That was about $25. I'll put the link down for Flex Nib factory. They're a really great company. They manufacture Ebonite feeds for modern pens, with the idea that Ebonite gives a better flow than plastic feeds. So they make Ebonite feeds for the Pilot Custom 912 FA, and I believe for Yobo. It's a really great company. So I bought it, but before I tried putting it in, I tried the pen just as it was out of the box, and it works great. It needed absolutely no adjustments, no Ebonite feed whatsoever. So the flow is great. It flexes really, really well. Maybe a little bit less squishy, maybe a little bit stiffer than some of my what are called like wet noodle, like super flexible pens, which is actually good because if you're a beginner, some of those really flexible pens are really hard to use, hard to control. You'll find yourself flexing even when you don't want to. Now, I will be doing reviews of my other vintage pens. The problem is, particularly with the older pens, there's not a lot of consistency from pen to pen. So one Waterman 55 might write very differently than another Waterman 55. Those pens came with a really large variety of feeds and nibs, from what I understand. So, I don't know, I find that reviews of vintage pens are not as useful. Other than just to get a general sense of the pen. I did do a review of one vintage pen, the Montblanc 342G, which is a semi-flex pen that I really, really like and strongly recommend. But I find that, that's a pen from the 50s, and there's lots of them out there, and I don't know, my guess is that there probably is a lot of consistency between those pens. So in that case, I made an exception. And I will be doing some reviews of, I've got a Pelican vintage pen, I think it's a 140 that I really, really like. But back to this one. Again, I think this pen has a lot of advantages over Vintage Flex in that it's really sturdy. It's both a cartridge and a converter, which makes it really portable. The flow is great, and again, this is a pen that I've had absolutely no problems with. No hard starts, no leakages. And actually, leakages are quite a bit of a problem with Flex pens. It's never dripped on me or burped on me. Again, that's a problem with Flex pens. This is a pen that doesn't even leak if you shake it. What else can I say about it? Well, look, the review is almost over. Really excellent pen. Look, whether it's worth the price is purely subjective. It depends on how much money you have to burn. It's sitting in your wallet. But look, if I was going to spend over $200 for a pen, this is definitely the one I would get. Definitely. The quality is really tremendous. The weight, even though it's a big pen, is really perfect. It posts well. The balance is great. And I really, really enjoy drawing with this pen. So there's my quick review of the Pilot Custom 743 FA, a really nice pen that's highly recommended despite the relatively high cost. I'm almost done with all the Pilot Flex pens in my collection. I have one more review to do of the Pilot 912 FA. Also a really nice flex pen with a slightly juicier, wider nib. And then, probably last thing I'm going to do is a comparison between the two, the Pilot 743 FA and the 912 FA.